My name is Rebecca Schwab-Peoples, and I'm a member of the Customer Success Management team here at Relativity. I'm also joined by Julie Huner, also a fellow Customer Success Manager. Here we have the agenda for this webinar. We'll be covering the changes in the Bluestem release for all of the various areas of the application that we have listed here. And then we'll also have a question and answer session after our content in about 30 minutes. If any questions pop into your head as we're going through content, please type them in and send them off. And we'll address all of those after we're done getting through all of our scheduled content. Some of you might be wondering what exactly is Bluestem. Bluestem is our name for our new release that's coming up. It's actually Relativity 9.7. Bluestem is currently in preview, which is available to all of our RelativityOne customers. It will actually be in RelativityOne beginning at the end of September as well as October, depending on which geography you use to access RelativityOne. And then it will be available to our on-prem customers January 21st. Just a quick note on Preview. Preview is an environment that's available to RelativityOne customers. It gives you access to the latest release 2 months before your RelativityOne production environment is upgraded. And it's a great way to see the features ahead of time, access the front end and see what might impact your workflow, and test things out from the front end. If you develop on top of RelativityOne, you might want to consider getting a sandbox environment, which is actually a dedicated instance that you can use to test SQL scripts, any type of applications, custom pages, or anything that you might be developing in the back end. And this actually gives you access to both the current release as well as this early access release of Relativity. It ensures that you're ready to go once your production environment is upgraded. I'm going to cover some special considerations to keep in mind for your Bluestem upgrade. For our RelativityOne customers, it's very important that you download the latest Relativity desktop client immediately after your environment is upgraded. I'll talk about it in a little bit, but we have some changes to the Staging Explorer coming out. And in order to take advantage of those changes, you need to make sure you have the latest desktop client. The next consideration, we have a new instance setting, which will allow you to show or hide the case map option from within the viewer context menu. So to show you what that is, the name of the instance setting is at the top of the screen. And here we have a screenshot to show you exactly what we're talking about. So what we had previously, if you right-clicked in the viewer, you had an option to go to case map and then interact with the case map application. So we've deprecated that and added this instance setting so that if you really need this functionality back, you can turn that back on. But keep in mind, by default, when you upgrade, that will be disabled. If you're in RelativityOne and if you have any questions about this instance setting, please reach out to your Customer Success Manager. Next, I'm going to cover some of the enhancements in app analytics for Bluestem. So the biggest enhancements we have are the coverage queue for active learning, as well as improved suppressed document reporting. First of all, we have coverage queue. This is a new queue type available in active learning. The purpose of this queue is to really target the very center documents in this document rank distribution. So you can see the chart that we're looking at on the screen. This is showing us how our documents are ranking, whether they're relevant or not relevant. So remember that highly relevant or responsive would be ranked at about 100 or close to 100, whereas not relevant is really close to 0. The coverage queue allows you to grab documents from the very middle, around 50, and it allows you to give more information to the system for those documents that are really on the edge, where it would be great to have a human take a look at them and determine whether they're responsive or non-responsive, and then feed that information into the engine and make it even smarter. So you can see there, that's another review type here. You can see here where we can add reviewers to that review type And then to the reviewer, they're just going to really see a button to start review. And just like any active learning review queue, it's super simple for reviewers. There's really no additional training needed. They don't need to excerpt. They don't need to mark as example. It's very simple. They're just going to go through and review the documents that Relativity serves up to them. The next enhancement is suppressed document reporting. So suppressed duplicate documents is a setting on project setup. Basically, this will speed up your project by suppressing duplicative documents so that reviewers are looking at unique documents. They're not wasting time looking at the same document that they've already coded. So it will speed up your review, but previously there was no way to find those documents after they were suppressed. So if you are using active learning on an earlier version, you may have decided not to use this option because it was too difficult for reporting. So we've now added suppressed document reporting so that you can really take advantage of this option and still be able to report on all of your documents and really understand where your project is at. So here we're looking at a screenshot of the field tree. You can see that for this classification active learning index, there's actually an automatic field created for the suppressed duplicates, so you can easily find those suppressed duplicate documents. We have a couple other small enhancements or fixes coming up in Bluestem for analytics. The first one is to stabilize the project delete for active learning. If you've ever deleted an active learning project, there is a chance that you ran into certain error messages along the way for that process of deleting it. So we've stabilized that process to avoid any issues upon delete. We've also optimized the update ranks option for active learning. Update ranks is going to go and update the ranks for all the documents, and it's updating a multi-object field in SQL. So it is pretty resource intensive, so it would take a long time previously, but we have optimized that performance, so it's going to go much faster in Bluestem. And then the last analytics enhancement is that we've added ARM support for active learning projects. So whether the project is in progress or if it is closed out, you can easily ARM a workspace in or out with that active learning project intact. Okay, I'm going to move on to our data grid enhancements. First of all, we've been working hard on data grid performance and trying to get through to performance parity between data grid fields as well as SQL. The next thing we've been working on is an export API, which Julie is actually going to touch on later. And then I'll show you some enhancements we've made to text migration. So first of all, on the performance, all of this is referring to the data grid for text. So this is data grid for your long text fields in Relativity. So our goal here is to get with parity with SQL so that nothing is slower in data grid. We want everything to be just as fast or even faster with data grid. So you can see here the improvements we've made, especially with DT search indexing. We've really lowered that indexing time for 1 million documents, but you can see we have a little bit of work still to go, and we're still working on these enhancements. You can see that processing is almost right on point with SQL, but again, we're still working on that. And then RDC import is actually just on point with SQL. Now, text migration for data grid is the way that we migrate any long text fields from SQL into the data grid file system for like extracted text, OCR, translated text. So we're enhancing the application to basically make it easier to do this. So here we have a list of the enhancements to this application. You're able to migrate text from multiple workspaces in one single job, migrating up to 3 long text fields in a single job. And then you can also import or overlay into that workspace while the migration is in process. We're really trying to make it easier to manage these migration jobs. So you'll also have automated verification as well as the SQL cleanup as well. Migration status is going to be improved as well while the job is running. Next, I'm going to touch on the data transfer enhancements. Here's a list of the enhancements that I'm going to go over. First, we're going to start with the Staging Explorer. Now, the Staging Explorer is only going to sound familiar to RelativityOne customers. This is the RelativityOne Staging Explorer. So if you use Relativity on-prem, this doesn't really apply to you. This is the tool that we use to transfer data from a local machine up into cloud storage. We've added the ability to rename files and folders from within the Staging Explorer. This prevents you from having to log into a utility server in order to modify data after you've, say, uploaded it to RelativityOne. So I'll show you a quick screenshot here. You can see that you can rename folders in both the local and the staging areas within the Staging Explorer. And remember that after your environment is upgraded, to download the new Relativity desktop client. For the ARM tool, we've added more reporting for data grid backups. So we will be showing percentages between 0 and 100% for more clarity around the status of data grid backups as well as restores. We've added support for archiving analytics data in RelativityOne. Analytics, the architecture is a little bit different in RelativityOne, even though it looks exactly the same to the user in the front end of Relativity. But it is a little bit different on the back end. So ARM has just added support for archiving RelativityOne analytics data, which will then allow customers to take workspaces offline easily from RelativityOne. For RIP, we've added more informational error messages so that when you do encounter an error message during the push workflow, it's going to give you more details on where exactly the error message is occurring. So to show you an example here, we have the before and after of that error message. And really the big thing here is that in the after error message, it actually tells you which field to look at where this failure occurred. And this is going to help you a lot rather than having to track down yourself which field is causing this error message. Okay, our next topic is imaging and production. So I'm going to hand it over to Julie, who's going to cover this. So please just give us one moment.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the work that we've done in imaging and production in the Bluestem release. And I'm sure many of you are aware that we've done quite a bit of work in specifically production, but also in imaging as well over the last couple of years. Some of the work that we've done in Bluestem is a little bit more focused on some performance improvements in the imaging piece, as well as better insight into your production jobs. So I'm going to walk you through each one of these 3 different improvements. For the first one, this is really about giving you more insight into the actual status of your production job. So we do break out the different stages of the production, such as staging, production, branding. We will now give you more insight as you're doing your branding job of the progress of your branding, as well as estimated times for completion of your job. And here's an example also that we wanted to show you of what it looks like as far as that status and how this will update as you're going. And so you get just some better information of exactly where you are. And here you can see this is letting you know that you started your job at a certain time, a certain amount of images have been completed, and then some are remaining, as well as giving you that estimated time remaining of 9 minutes and 39 seconds. And this is an example of our production summary. This slide here is showing you what we are highlighting as some of the key things that are related to your production. So here you can see your Bates ranges, the number of things like documents and images, and the number of placeholders that are in that production. For the imaging improvements, one of the main ones that we did was to improve the architecture of imaging so that users can actually submit large jobs and have those successfully complete. Potentially in the past, if you had kicked off some very large imaging jobs, you may have run into an issue or ended up needing to break that imaging job into a couple of different jobs. And based on the work that we've done here, we've actually improved it so that you will have those jobs successfully complete. And we've also made it more flexible for you to actually be able to scale up your agents to support those jobs. Another improvement for imaging is done for the imaging sets when you are encountering errors. So what we will do here is we'll actually use an RDO to capture the exact error message that is related to that document. And it's going to allow you to actually find and understand your errors better. And we have a screenshot of that here. And I will apologize in advance that this may look a little bit blurry on your screen, but please feel free to go grab the PDF download of this presentation, and the slides should be clear in there for you to be able to see the details on this better. This is just a call out that hopefully is a little bit more clear, that will allow you to see what I'm talking about as far as giving you the reference to the document and then the actual errors that are related to that document. Okay, so the next product that we want to talk to you about is processing. And for processing, the large amount of work that we've done in the Bluestem release is actually around the processing assistant. And this is going to help you have a more simplified approach to setting up your processing jobs. So for the processing assistant, you'll have the ability to actually select multiple file locations for a data source. And we'll show you an example of that here. And specifically in this call out, you'll be able to see that we've selected actually multiple locations here to be associated with this. Okay, we'll move on to the legal hold product now. For Relativity Legal Hold and Bluestem, there were two main pieces of work that were completed. One of those is around the approval workflow for your legal holds, and another is around a default dashboard that will now ship with Legal Hold. For the communication approval workflow, it's actually going to be a simple workflow where the approvals can actually be required and routed to individuals that have approval permissions. So an example could be that perhaps you want to have general counsel or a manager that has to approve it prior to it being sent out, and then they can either approve the notice or they could send it back if they find an issue with it. And here you'll see an example of, it's again, I apologize, it may be a little blurry, but down here at the bottom is a list of the different notices here, the status that they're in, and you would be able to see a couple of them that say that they are pending approval. For the custodian and matter dashboard, this again, it's going to be a default customizable custodian and project dashboard that will ship with Legal Hold, and it's going to display key status information about the individuals that are on hold. And so while it will ship as a default, it will actually still be configurable to the end users. And here's just a screenshot of what that status dashboard looks like. And you can see that it is baked right into Legal Hold by default. Okay, now we're going to talk for a second about the platform. And Rebecca alluded to this one earlier in the data grid section, but we have also shipped an export API. So this is a great tool for our developers and for even our third-party developers who need to access the large amounts of text for them to be able to have a really performant tool that they would build on top of our API. We needed to actually support an export API, and that will ship with Bluestem, and it can be integrated with the RDC, with analytics, and with DT search. Okay, now we'll move into transcripts. And just as a little bit of background, we have done a lot of work on transcripts over the last year. Starting in a very late 9.5 version, we introduced a new transcripts tool to replace our old tool, and we've continued to develop on top of that. Specifically in Bluestem, we've done quite a bit of work as well to enhance some of those features. So you will be able to customize your initial transcript upload layout. I will show you an example of this in the next screenshot, but this is really about letting you be able to determine the fields that you want to have available to you when you're going to upload your transcript. So it will only show you the fields that you're choosing. We also have introduced a button into the viewer that is a quick way for you to actually be able to expand all notes. I'll show a quick screenshot of that as well. And then the three at the bottom here, I will just quickly talk about. Bulk upload transcripts. This is going to allow you to be able to use the RDC to import multiple transcripts efficiently and quickly. Supporting existing exhibit links. If you already have transcripts that has maybe a court reporter has already linked some exhibits in there, we now will support those in LEF files. And the last one here is the ability to read in page numbers. So when you're uploading multiple volumes of transcripts, it will automatically know where the last one left off and concatenate the page numbers from there. And just to show you a couple of screenshots of the things that we talked about, this is an example of the customizable layout where you'll be able to choose which fields of metadata you want to include. And then this is an example of the button that you'll be able to click in the viewer that will quickly expand all of the notes that are in this transcript. Okay, and the last product that we wanted to talk to you all about today is going to be Case Dynamics. If you haven't been paying attention, this was formerly the Fact Manager product in older versions of Relativity. And for Bluestem and Case Dynamics, we delivered one of the top client requests, and that is that customers have requested that the UTC toggle setting be moved to a workspace level instead of at the instance level. So you'll be able to run a script to actually have this roll out into one workspace without impacting other people in different workspaces that may not want to utilize this. Okay, so we made it through the bulk of the presentation, and we have some time for questions and answers. We've been trying to answer some questions as we go that were not pertinent to the entire crowd, but if anyone's been saving any questions that they want to have answered, please submit those now, and Rebecca and I will answer them for everyone that's still on the line. And we'll give it just a few minutes while we wait to see if any questions come in. Everyone's being pretty silent today, so I don't know that we actually have any that we're fielding yet, but if you still have them and you've been holding out, now would be a good time to send them. And while we're waiting for that, we just wanted to remind everyone about Relativity Fest. We hope that many of you that are on the line will be attending Relativity Fest. You should try to find Rebecca and I, and we can talk a little bit more about Bluestem with you. But the dates on that are September 30th to October 3rd, so it's less than 10 days away now, and we're pretty excited about it. We've got a bunch of new sessions this year, some really great speakers, and don't forget about your CLEs, which is why many of you may be dialed in right now. And again, we hope to see you guys there. But we're going to hang out on the line here. We'll probably go on mute just while we're waiting to see if any questions come in. But otherwise, if we don't have anything come in, we'll go ahead and thank people for attending now. We appreciate your time. Again, make sure you go ahead and grab your PDF download as well so you can have that for reference. And if you don't hear from us, that means there were no questions, and we hope that you guys all have a really great day. Hi, everyone. If we still have some people on the line, we did get a couple of questions that came in that we thought might be pertinent to the full group. We had a question as to whether Office 2016 is supported in Bluestem. It's not supported yet in Bluestem, but I do know that that is in the backlog for them to roll that out, but it is not currently in for Bluestem. A few of you have asked about RCE credits. So you should get your RC credits based on what your login. We'll be able to reference that and give you the credits. So you should get those. If you see any problems with that, though, please reach out to our team here, and we'll make sure we get that for you. But you shouldn't have to worry about that. Okay, everyone, we haven't really gotten more questions besides the ones that I just answered. So we're going to go ahead and end the webcast for now. Again, thank you all for joining, and we hope you have a great day.